Good morning and welcome back to Plannercraft. I'm Natalie and today we're going to be doing another house. But this time we're going to have a little bit more fun and change it up a bit because we're going to be using a mount too. So I'm also aiming to be done by 9, ready for Leslie's show. So fingers crossed, who thinks I can stick to a time? And morning Tracy, Sally, Mum and Carol. So multi-stream chat appears to be working this morning, so fingers crossed. If you do comment on YouTube, hopefully I should see it. So it's a bit of a super day today on Craftstor. Lots of fun things to watch. So I watched the first Tando hour this morning. That was fun. It's nice to see what other DTs do with the same stamps that you get given. So there we go. And a bit stubborn to come out, this one. So I'm using the same range of frames, but this one is a 21 by 30 centimetre. So I'm going to grab my trusty piece of paper and set everything else to one side for a moment. And let's get the next piece. Yeah, try not to show stuff on stream, it's a nightmare. There we go. So we can see that our paper is just a little bit bigger than our frame. So this time I'm going to give myself some pencil lines to go to, and then I'm going to use my T-square to line it all up and cut it out. Okay. Set aside that piece of paper for later on because you want to put that at the back. There you go. So yes, I prefer YouTube setup for comments, having looked between the two now. But whichever way you want to watch is fine by us. We don't mind doing the multi-stream. So I'm just going to use my trusty T-ruler. So I can line this up. The paper wants to run away. Hang on. Let's make life easier. There's a reason why I swapped over to a magnetic cutting mat. Because how often do you need an extra pair of hands? So I can use the magnets at my stamp platform and hold that in place. So real memory keepers do a few of these magnetic cutting mats that are quite handy to have in your stash. This one's a folding one, but they do just a normal standard one. As you can see, mine's got rather mucky over time, no matter how much I tried to keep it clean in the beginning. Yep, any scene stamps. We had a set, come on Mum, help me out here. We had a set ages ago, and I mean ages ago, like going back sort of about 20 years. And it was probably about the third set that we bought. And I think we got it from the shop in Worcester called Craft Corner. No longer there, sadly. But, yeah. I think it was on, was it First Class Stamps? It's certainly somebody like that. So, when it comes to cutting this out, you can do it with a knife or you can just do it with a pair of scissors. I'm just going to use scissors for today because, as Ian's already put it, I'm a little bit lethal this morning. I'd lose my head if it wasn't screwed on. I'm not being the morning person today. Some mornings I can be, but today is not one of them. So, notebooks. The hardback one has been approved and that is now up and available. And so hopefully the paperback one, which is based on exactly the same artwork, isn't going to be too far behind. Which will be cool. Morning, Deb. So I'm just going to get rid of that little thin piece, but the other bit I might keep for a sentiment. I'm getting a little collection of little offcuts of white card. Okay, so stamp platform. Because this one is going to be sort of more in the middle, I'm going to swap my platform to the stamp press because it has the advantage of having open sides. And things falling over on their own. It's a good job I don't freak out easily. So I'm going to put my magnets up against this top edge here. And today I'm going to be using one of the Kim Moody houses that you can get from Chocolate Baroque. So these are really quirky. And if you follow his Instagram account, you'll see it's got lovely illustrations to look at all day long. So, what should we go for? I think I'm going to go for this one. And I will try and pop up links for all of these later. Mainly because I need to redo my labels. So I'll do it while I'm there. So one of the things I love about this stamp press is the fact that I haven't got to think, oh, what sort of stamp have I got in it? I can just go for it. Just want to try and get it level so he doesn't look like he's on the slope too much. Yeah, happy with that. Go for it. Oh, Carol, have you missed out on the chatter on the notebooks? Yeah, that was yesterday's little endeavour because I've been saying about doing it for ages. I think going back to when we did the annual. Because when we used to do classes in person, we would do like a little notebook. So it would be literally like a little exercise book into which we would stick several pages of scan and cut references with the plan of then people could make notes from classes in them. Mainly because with the first class that we did, it was like, have you got your notebook? And everybody's like, didn't think we needed one. And there we go. So if you're slightly off centre, don't worry, you can use your watercolour to kind of bring it back centre. But I think that is pretty close to where I want it. Okay, so let's clean stamp. Yep, initially it'd be through Amazon, and then Ian and I have been discussing about doing some UK only ones direct, just because of shipping costs basically. And it's really daft. We had to send a package of the posters to Ireland, and it cost as much to send it there as it did the States. So yeah, postage is getting incredibly expensive. So while we don't get a lot from Amazon for the notebooks, it's still better than nothing. So the paperback is £7.50, and the hardback version is £15. So we'll be getting some paper books in that we can send. Yeah, it's basically like a project planner. So for most of the pages, what you have is a blank space top left with room for a product title. At the bottom of that you have a little chart with material, blade, pressure, speed. Then on the right hand side you have a lined space that you can use to note in any instructions, or if you want to go full on and do a blog piece in there, you can do. Okay, so we're going to work with the same palette as for our previous houses, but this time, because we've got all this lovely render, we're going to want to use a cream or beige colour. So let's give the palette a little clean first, because I've kind of pinched my cream space up here. So I'm just going to give that a quick clean out, spray it with some water, and then we can just clean that away. There we go. Put some water in there, and I'm going to pick up a little bit of the yellow, and it's going to go, wow, that's bright. I'm going to go for a bit of the mango. Just going to warm it up a little bit. Then let's go for, if you go for the Payne's grey, it's going to go more of a greeny tone, and I want to go more brown. Not that brown, but never mind. And a bit of that pastel grey, so you're going to get kind of chalky. You can always come back and add a little bit more yellow and mango if you need it to lighten up a little bit. Once you're happy with the tone, then you can add water to make it lighter. And I think about there. So yeah, let's get some more water, mix it in. And the idea is that when it dries, it's going to go nice and pale. So I'm just going to have a look on a spare piece of paper, a little bit lighter. There we go. He's getting there. And if you have more than you need, oh well, just let it dry and you can use that for another one. So then we come into our render. Now, as you move through this section, if you want to add the occasional dot of a different colour and then blend in, you can do. But don't think about doing the shading at this point, otherwise it will all bleed and it will look far too soft. just go around this brick area here and underneath there. Down here, and let's put a little touch of that brown in. Just going to mix that into the palette because being brown, I don't want it to be too strong. But we can go and dirty it up a bit. Okay, let's pick up some of that original colour. And there's a little bit just there. Now for the bench, which is the fun bit, because this is all metalwork, so you can go straight over the top, apart from this top section here. Saves you trying to sort of work your way around that bench. And around the door frame, and around the shutter of the window. So where we've got this greenery for now, just go over the top. And we can paint that in after. Just going to pull out any harsh edges just so we don't get any weird kind of blobs. Okay, and also remember to do under the bench too. So there's our first layer of render, nice and quick. Now we can let that dry for a moment. So for our roof, to tie this back into our other paintings, I'm going to go for the same brick colour that we've been using for the roof. So just refresh that with some water. And we can drop that in like so. So again, for this first coat, don't get hung up on shading. Just get nice even colour onto your roof. Like so. Okay. Not too bad so far. Gonna get some Payne's Grey and a little tiny bit of the blue. Mix that in and we can start to drop that into the panes of glass. So I'm going along the top, down the one side, then just a little tiny bit on the other panes. So that's going to help our window so that it looks like each of those is an individual pane of glass, even though there's no sort of frame between them. Okay, and give your brush a good clean. Take most of the moisture out of it, and we can come back and just blend that out. If it starts to get too dark, give it another clean, take the moisture out and go on to the next one. Yep, if you've got a natural sponge, you can certainly do that. Natural sponges tend to be better than the man-made type. You can also do it the other way around, where you apply the colour onto your paper and then use a damp natural sponge to actually lift out your clouds. Would these notebooks have the blade settings etc. already in them, or are they blank? Okay, so blade settings. It does have blade settings, but it has it very loosely. So I give you a guide as to where to start. Now, what I would say is, and let's just say this in the book, every machine is different, and if you think a setting that I've given you is too high, then try it where you think it should be first. But I did actually edit it, so for those of you who hopefully catch up and have been to a class and have a notebook, I have done some changes to the content. Some of them are necessary, so where websites sadly don't exist anymore, I've had to change those. Some of them were necessary due to upgrades, where certainly I've found my machine loves to change its settings on an upgrade. So it's much more what I would set it for now. Okay, so give that a good clean. You can colour your front door whatever colour you want to, but this one's going red. I thought, given that there's going to be quite a bit of green in this, didn't want to go green. Brown's just boring. White we've done a few times already. So, now speaking of which, I'm going to go back to my Payne's Grey. Plenty of water again. Try and scrape some out with a brush, because we don't want so much in there. And we're going to come in and do these shutters, because they can be white. I'll let them. And you notice I'm not painting every individual shutter. That would just be tedious. But by varying your stroke, it's going to look like you did. So don't be tempted to just go straight down. Actually kind of stroke the paper. And same with the window frame. I'm just going to take a bit of that shading colour across the top and down the side. Window ledge wise, we can use a dirtier version of our render colour. So I'm adding a bit of that render colour to my Payne's Grey, and that can come over the top here. It's going to look more like it's concrete. And we can use that same colour on our step. And I'm just going to bring it out just a little bit like so. So you're getting a trapezium kind of shape. Wash out the brush. Again, take that dampness out. Just going to go straight across, so that's going to blend that first bit. Clean the brush, damp this out, and then we can soften this edge here and soften it out this way, like so. Next, greenery. So I'm trying to give my render as much time as possible to dry so that we can have a sharp edge between the bricks and the render. So I'm going to start off with my greenery over here. I'll do a little bit over here, and then we'll do this branch that comes up and over. So, meadow again. Anybody think this is my favourite colour? Use enough of it. So if you've got Graphitint pencils and Inktense pencils, you can do all of this same technique just with your pencils. You can apply it direct to your paper if you want. So this is going to go up to this edge and stop. Like so. Clean out. Dump this off, and I'm going to soften this edge so that we're suggesting that this hedge continues. Clean brush again. And fade it out again, like so. Now bear in mind we're going to be cutting a mount for this, so eventually it will cut off. Oh dear. That's a bit of a DIY fail. Yeah, the 600 to the 900. We had two 900s bought within a day of each other, delivered within a few days of each other in the same classroom. And you'd have thought that they'd have been as different as a scanner cut and a Cricut, because all the draw settings were totally different, all the pen settings were totally different. Okay, so I'm going a little bit lighter for this arch to start with, but I'm going to build it up. So there's our arch. I'm going to get some neat meadow and I'm going to drop it in. Now because it's wet, it's going to blend. So far so good. A little bit more if you want it a bit stronger in places. Don't try and redo the whole thing. You want to keep some of that lightness there. Next I'm going to go to the artichoke, and I'm going to drop in a few bits down towards the bottom, and maybe a little bit just at the base of the arch, like that. Then we're going to go to the Payne's Grey. I'm just going to blob that out on my brush. I'm going to come in right down the bottom and put a bit there and a bit right at the bottom edge of our arch here, so it's going to start looking 3D. Now you can go as strong as you like. If you want to do it so it's dark green, just add a bit more Payne's Grey. If you're happy to keep it lighter, then you can just do what I just did. There we go. So hopefully then our arch looks like it's almost part of our hedge. We can also then do a few other little dots towards this kind of centre point. So don't do it this edge, but in this centre section here, and a little bit down that bottom edge, like so. Then we're going to switch it up. So artichoke, let's get a bit more water on my brush. And a bit Payne's Grey. Now I'm trying to be good and keep an eye on the time, but if I do run over, no, I'm not running over. Not running over today. And I'm going to come down here and do this little section here. that's dry, I'm going to actually put a little bit of flour on that, and I might just use the pastel palette to do that, because the pastels are really good for doing sort of highlights and things where you actually want it to overlay the image underneath, if that makes sense. So again, I'm going to soften this edge. And drag out. And I'm just going to go over that blend there so we don't get a line. Clean my brush, soak up the puddle. Okay. So now we've got this greenery that's going through here. Now it's up to you how much you want to suggest. So I'm going to bring a bit of the render colour, and I'm going to drop that through the gate. If it picks up some of the green, don't worry. And then I'm going to fade that out in a minute. And around here, I'm going to do the same, and around under here. Clean brush. Yeah, if only we could all be that quick doing the rendering. It's also what you call when you're doing 3D modelling, that's rendering, and that is a very slow process. Not had to do it in a while, but back when I was at uni, we did lots of 3D stuff, and rendering could take days. Rendering is actually one of the reasons why I encourage people to pack up so much. Because I can laugh about it now, but I couldn't at the time. But my computer at the time had a really good idea of it was going to lock, and I mean lock, a DVD that I had rendered something to, and for years I couldn't get access to it. And then Windows did an update, sort of, it's got to be like 10 years later, so bear in mind this was for my dissertation, so somewhat missed the deadline. 10 years later it decides, actually, do you know what, I'll let you have a look at that file now. At the time I was absolutely flipping gutted, because it not only lost the render, it had wiped out a lot of the paperwork that I had done, so all the dissertation that went with it. We also had to do a thing called a learning journal, which with hindsight is a really good idea, and I understand it far more now than I did when I was at uni, I have to say. But yeah, at the time it was just like, it seemed to be a load of pointless writing. I'm going to bring this colour underneath where all our renders cracked from the ground, and then it comes up here like so. And you'll notice at this point I'm still not doing any shading, I'm just literally putting it in the colour, because sometimes it's just easier to do that shading after. And I'm going to put that bit in there like so. And let's put this bit in down here. So this poor house has seen better days. Okay. My stereo's doing random things all on its own. Can't be good. Hope it's not just died on me. Okay. So, Payne's Grey. Back into our shading area that we've developed up here. I'm going to come in and do a little section underneath our roof. And if you want to go stronger, you can do. So let's go right under here. And it's going to have the added advantage of making that render look even kind of more falling apart, and you can bring it down a little bit in here. It's got issues. So if you look on the original stamp, you'll see there's lots of little dots and cracks and things that you can have fun with. I'm going to do a little tiny bit at the top of the brick section here, and also little tiny bits that are in the cracks here, so that we're giving that hint of bits of lifting and twisting as they flake off our poor old building. Now I am going to do some shading work in here, but not a lot. Now as we come to this section, we can pop a little bit more, and as you start to run out of colour, don't be afraid to pick up a bit more. And I'm going to bring some down here, into this section here. And where the cracks are smaller, they're more likely to appear darker. So, again, don't be afraid to just add that detail. A little bit in there. I'm going to put a little bit down the bottom, ready for when we do our greenery. And let's do a few dots, roughly where our poor render is falling apart. Okay. So let's get a bit more of that render colour and dirty that shade colour, and I'm just going to do our little balcony just there. Pick up some Payne's Grey and just do that section there, and we can also do our little shutter like so. I'm going to pick up some more of that brick tone, but a bit lighter. I'm going to pop that into our ladder. Like that. And a bit of greenery just down here, across here. I'm just using some Payne's Grey on the roof of our little porch. Now I'm just going to do every other one in the direction of those tiles and back across that top section. Let's get a bit more of that blue. I'm just going to do a little tiny bit, a hint. So this has got a tiny bit of meadow in it still, which is good because that means it's going to look like it's reflecting the grass that's opposite. Just if you do that, just remember to put a little bit in this downstairs window too, because essentially they are reflecting the same thing. And a bit of shading on the cat flap. Back to the meadow. And we're just going to dot in all this lovely greenery. So we've got little bits that are coming up here. Let's put a little bit there. And what I am going to do is just thicken it up down towards the bottom, because usually things like that will be thicker at the bottom and gradually trail off. So over here we have some greenery that's hanging from our balcony. And again I'm going to go back to the Payne's Grey, drop a few bits in so that will push that back a bit, and I will put some artichoke in that as well, but I'm going to wait for it to dry a little before I do that, just a little. And let's put a bit more Payne's Grey in towards this bottom section so that we're differentiating between all these different greenery that we have going on. I'm just going to put a bit of that darker colour at the bottom of these sections here. Just going to go Payne's Grey, and I'm just going to do this little chimney that's sticking up. And as with all of the Kim Moody stamps, we have a little bird. Take care, Deb, and we'll see you soon. So, red, bit of the autumn brown. Let's go, yeah. And let's go up here. And take that all across, so we get the feeling that these ridges are sticking up away from our tiles. Now when you watch the Christmas show that Leslie has, you'll see that there's a really nice poinsettia idea, and it's this colour that I use as the shadow, believe it or not. Really helps it pop. Vibrant red and then that colour over the top really deepens it. And when it dries, you'll see it has like a graphite sheen to it as well. It's cool. And there we go. I think I'm more or less happy with that, apart from, let me see if I can find my other palette. She says. Oh, my pastel one's gone for walkies. That's not on. There we go. So with our pastels, you find that your pastels are quite bright. And let's get a little bit on the tip of my brush. And I'm just going to do some little dots. So hopefully you can see those. I'm going to do the same but different colour for our little flowers here. Now that dot that I've just put there I'm going to blend out in a minute, so it's going to look like it's out of focus and fuzzy. Give your brush a good clean. So as I said yesterday, when you use the pastels you do tend to get a bit of a chalky sediment, so it's a good idea to give your brushes a good clean after you've used them. Just going to circle that little dot so it's going to be softer. Give it a wipe and we're going to circle the circle, if that makes sense. So around the outside of that circle, do it again, so that you get like a hint that there's a flower there but it's not in focus. We can also do a little bit of the greenery section over here. Then that's it, I'm done, I'm not fiddling. So let's just blend that over the top, through the middle of our ladder, and we're nearly done. Otherwise I'll be in trouble if I go past 9 o'clock. Okay. So, very quickly, let's move these bits out of the way. Because next we want to actually create our mount. So, we know that the outside is 21 by 30, but we will measure and double check, because double checking is important. It's slightly under 21 by 30, but we should get away with using 21 by 30 for our mount. And I'm going to use my scanning cut. Now, I do apologise, but I haven't pinched the ends bone. So I will describe in depth what I'm doing, but I won't be able to show you quite in detail. But I will angle there. So I'm going to put my painting onto my Artist mat, and there is a reason for that. I'm going to get OK to start up my machine. I'm going to load my mat. And grab my pencil, always helps. Pattern and choose the rectangle. Now this time I'm definitely going to use the ratio button, because we want to take it from that landscape format to a portrait. So we're going 300 high. Oh. So 300 high by 21, so that's 210. There we go. Add that to your mat. Oh, come on. Be nice for Natty. Take it down a little. Oh, come on, you can cut that. Thank you. So, there's my frame. And the reason that you do that first is I'm going to do a background scan so that I can see my picture on my mat. Ooh. Okay, so there's my scan. Take the card off your mat because we don't want to accidentally cut our painting. And bring in your card you do want to cut. So in this case, I have a 12 by 12 piece of anthracite grey, which hopefully when it's in its frame, it's going to blend in with our wall, so it looks like our picture is going to be floating. And put that onto my mat. Now bear in mind that it doesn't like that outside frame, but what we actually want to cut is the inside bit. So I'm going to go to add and leave that outside frame on for now. I'm going to go to that same rectangle. I'm just going to go set. Now it's going to go, there isn't enough space on the mat. Okay, so bring it down. Because it doesn't matter how big that rectangle is at the moment. It can be little. Because when you are bringing in new shapes onto your mat, it's thinking, I'm cutting the next shape along. Rather than thinking, well actually I can cut that outside of the centre of that. It can't work that one out. So I'm going to get this rectangle and I'm going to bring it into the middle of my painting, like so. I can then go to edit, object edit and resize. I'm going to go bigger, and then if I want to readjust it I can do, but I think that's okay. Then I'm going to tick my ratio button so it turns blue, which you can't quite see because of where the light's shining. There you go. If I do it that way you can see better. So you haven't got the glare. And now I'm going to make my height bigger. Like so. And I'm going to go OK. Go OK again. Multi-select. Everything. Go OK. Into move and align. And we're going to go centre and centre. So that means that is in the centre of that outside frame. Now bear in mind, when we did our scan, our card is lined up to our mat, so that left hand edge. Okay, where our active area is actually in from that. So although it looks like that mount is slightly off centre, it's going to come back a tiny fraction. So it's going to be more over here. So it's going to see some of our blending area. But we could potentially at one point put in something else over here, but I'm happy with that for now. So I'm going to go OK and OK and click off. Now in brief, if you want to do a double mount, you could choose a colour from out of your painting and use that for a double mount. And what you would do is you would go into object edit, you would go to offset and you would go inwards. So to do that you're going to go to a negative number and you want to take it in at least 5mm, so potentially more depending on your painting. So if you wanted to do that you could do, okay, but you don't have to, and the choice is entirely yours. It does look quite cool with a double mount though. But before I do that, let's cut out my grey. So I'm going to go OK. I'm going to click on that outside frame and I'm going to delete it for now and go OK. So it's gone. Because it was that little bit too short. So go OK. OK. And we're going to go to cut. And I'm just going to use my standard auto blade for this because it's just a box. And I'm going to drop my pressure down and go OK. And I can cut that. Let's see, have I got something that I think would match nicely to do a double mount? Because I think you need to see it. Right, let's go for maybe that red. Maybe. See if we can match. Or nice soft grey blue, maybe? Maybe. Let's see what I've got. So any questions while I'm looking? Oh, that one's nice. I think that might be the one. So I'm going to grab this nice piece of cloud blue, I think I would call it. And let's try and get it at least level, Natty, honestly. Let's try that again. Told you. He said I was late for today. Okay. So I'm going to go back, edit, object edit, offset, do that -5, because it did look good, like so, and go OK, and we'll go OK again. I'm going to delete that bigger one, so that we've got just that inside one. OK, OK, and cut, and off it can go. So just because it didn't quite go through as much as I would like to, I'm just going to tidy it up. It's going to be too quick for me. I'm just going to send that around again. Not just to get it out of my way, honest. Okay. This card's been awfully stubborn today. Even Slice doesn't want to slice it. There we go. So there's one frame done. And we can take that bit card off and we can use that for another card. I'm just going to move my cutting mat out of the way. Oh, and I've missed my deadline. Okay. Very quickly, because I want to show you this together. so you can see how it's going to look. We're going to have a frame like that, or in a frame. Then we can stick our background piece to our frame and trim it round like so. There we go. Ta-da! And I run over, so I'm so naughty. I tried my best to do it in time. So, if you hop over to the craft store quickly, you will catch Leslie with her lovely, lovely, lovely stamps. And she's got some quite good samples on there. Can't think where she got those from. So, take care, and I will see you Monday. Bye for now. Bye. Oh, before I go, don't forget, it's CM week next week. Bye.